Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast. This is the Profoundupon podcast, where we'll be having profound conversations on profound topics, sometimes with profound people. Today is not one of them days. I'm just going to be doing a short episode 1, answering a few questions about the podcast and about myself, so you can get a good idea of what to expect from this podcast in the future. And hopefully the people watching at the minute can stick along for the journey and see where this ends up. So, question number 1. What is this podcast? This is a place where we'll be having insightful conversations that hopefully all, if not almost, of the people listening will be able to benefit from it. So not too long ago, I realised that life is coming from you and it's not coming at you, and we've got a limited amount of time to be able to actually go and pursue what we want to get out of life and actually just try things. But this is definitely something I'd like to do as a little side hustle, which hopefully in the future can become the main hustle. We will see. Bit of repetition, bit of consistency. Hopefully, sky's the limit. Anyway, just to give you an idea of what these conversations will be about, my specialised knowledge, I'll go into it a little bit more later on in the podcast, but I am currently studying a master's degree in sports psychology. I'd say I've definitely found my purpose and I'm aligned with that purpose. And along with that, I've definitely achieved a lot of clarity, regardless of all the adversity that I have faced prior to this first episode of filming. So hopefully I can use whatever I have learned before now to bring you the best possible conversations on the best possible topics. We're going to be having guests on. This will hopefully be once every other episode, so maybe a solo episode and then a guest episode. Maybe you might get 2 guests 2 weeks in a row. You might get 2 solo episodes 2 weeks in a row. We'll just see how that goes. But that is obviously dependent on who we can get in to talk. So the insightful conversations that we aim to have with these guests, it'll be about their success story and how they've overcome adversity to get to where they are today. And hopefully you can use these nuggets of information to use in your life and apply to the things that you want to get out of life. And I just want to build a community of people that are all firing to the best of their ability. So question number 2, who is the target audience? Everybody. Everybody is in different stages of their self-actualization, regardless of age. And that's why this podcast can be from people from all walks of life. If you want to listen in, you can listen in. I'm also going to be catering to people with the shorter attention spans. I'm going to be posting clips on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Feel free to go over and watch them, but obviously I'll be doing the long form content as well for the people that want to sit down, be a fly on the wall in the room and listen in on something that could potentially really help their life. I also want to build a community of people with a growth mindset, and regardless of how quickly this takes off, whether one person goes and tells 2, 2 go and tell 4, 4 go and tell 8, I don't really care. Even if I'm just helping one person, I will sleep better at night, and that is ideally what I want to get out of this podcast. I also want to resonate with people my age. I'm 23. I look around me and a lot more people could be pushing themselves at this point instead of feeling lost and not knowing where to go in life. And I think you can benefit a lot from just listening to conversations of people that perhaps are aligned with the purpose and do know what they want to get out of life. And it might even motivate you to go and find out what that is, or even just to try things. And if it doesn't work, picking up something else and starting from scratch, because ideally you want to be doing something with your life which is motivating you to get up every single day and just persevere consistently to build and like get that snowball effect. An initial idea might start small, but if you give it a bit of time and think about it with clarity, you can bring in all these new ideas and you can turn it into something worthwhile. I also want to promote people facing the problems instead of just kind of bottling it up or reacting. people are very reactive, and I think that being reactive in the moment can be a lot of people's downfall when they are trying to push themselves towards something, because that reactive state can just completely set them back to square one. Anyway, question number 3. Why should you tune into this podcast? As far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of hurt people hurting people, and I just want to be someone who contributes to the opposite of that. And if that can snowball into something which exceeds my expectations, then that would be ideal. But if not, I'm just happy to be able to do something which can contribute to bettering the community and bettering people's lives who are listening. And I am fully aware that this is a very oversaturated market. Podcasting has got very big and a lot of different people are doing it, but I think that shouldn't be something that intimidates you. I think you could find your niche in any environment, and obviously a lot of these podcasts that are being released are complete drivel, and a lot of them don't benefit the listener in any way, shape or form. Let's be honest. I'm not going to name any names. But a lot of them, brain rot, zero effort, or completely ill-informed. Another reason why I think you should tune in is because there is a big debate at the minute over legacy media and independent media. I think a lot of people are starting to realise that legacy media, for example, the news and newspapers and general outlets of information relied upon by the general public for years and years and years, they've been kind of perpetuating problems instead of focusing on what we can do to get better. And I think independent media can be very important in shaping people's mindsets and how they do want to push themselves, because whether legacy media like to admit it or not, there is a lot of things that they do subtly to keep you in a place where perhaps you do want to rely upon them and just blindly listen to everything that they say. We are obviously in a system which has been built for a lot of people to fail, and if they don't recognise this before a certain point, you could be fucked. I'd just like to have a non-biased and unfiltered space where people can come and listen to conversations on topics with zero sensitisation. So, who am I? My name is Lucas. Overall, I'd say I'm a happy person that is definitely aligned with the purpose. I'd say that for a very long time I was not aligned with my purpose, and I'll go into a little bit more detail, but I felt like I was kind of swimming upstream into the current, and everything that I was doing was just taking so much effort and so much energy, which I just wasn't willing to give because I wasn't enjoying it. And now that I've figured out what I actually want to get out of life, regardless of how many years it's going to take, it feels like I'm kind of just floating downstream, and everything that I do, which is considered work, doesn't feel like work because I'm generally enjoying myself. And I hope that people listening can get to a place where they have figured out what they want to do and they can just keep pushing themselves regardless of how the outcome feels right now. Because people kind of overestimate what they can do in a year but underestimate what they can do in 5 or 10 years. And now that I've got this set in stone that I want to do, I'm not worried about what the future brings. I know that if I push myself consistently and keep trying and keep attaining, then who's going to stop me, realistically? And I'll play this clip in a few years' time. I'd say I'm someone who's grateful, and I try to stay present as much as possible, which is very important. I'll go into more detail on that in later episodes, but I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety at 16 years of age. This was a very overwhelming experience. I had no prior knowledge on mental health or kind of looking after yourself in that capacity because, well, I just didn't get taught it. Now, this partnered with a complicated family situation, which left me questioning my worth a lot at a younger age. It did send me down the right path, believe it or not, and a lot of people can get consumed by things like that, and it kind of becomes their whole life, which is completely reasonable if you've not had the right information given to you, or you've just not been lucky enough to stumble across it, like me. Then I can understand how this could come across as perhaps a little bit, I don't know, arrogant. But in a way, it's led me to believe that everything, absolutely everything, happens for a reason. And this is an elite mentality to have, because it enables you to think that there is no such thing as losing, it's just winning or learning. And you can learn from every negative situation which has been thrown into your life, and I definitely recommend to seek to understand before seeking to be understood, because there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of information. We're in this information age right now where you can go and actually self-actualize just by falling down certain rabbit holes and learning this and changing the algorithms on whatever social media you've had from complete crap or negativity, which you are obviously kind of feeding off, and they know that and giving you more. It can lead you to spiral a lot. But on the other hand, your page can be completely transformed if you just watch some of these positive videos a little bit, and that algorithm can be changed within a week. Before you know it, you're cracking on, you're getting some momentum. Anyway, so I did mention that I was going to talk about what I personally specialise in, and I mentioned that I'm currently sitting my master's degree in the psychology of sport and exercise. So this degree is all about the human mind and the behaviours which come from whatever thoughts you hold in the human mind. And I've done this all with the purpose of wanting to share this information with the world. When I was in college, maybe 16, 17, I mentioned that I was diagnosed with depression, and psychology was introduced to me in my sport and exercise science course. It kind of led me to believe that the power is in my hands instead of, like I said before, the world coming at me instead of from me. And I knew when I applied for this degree about a year and a half ago that this information is something that I want to share with the world. I made my tutors very aware that this is the direction I want to take, and now I'm doing everything I can to kind of develop from that side of things, to be able to bring it into this podcast and, like I say, share it with the people that are listening. So, as I previously mentioned, I did sport and exercise science at college, and this led me to my undergraduate degree, which was sport and exercise science. So this gave me a broader understanding of the science behind psychology, and I did this with the purpose of actually becoming a professional rugby player. And this kind of leans into what I was talking about earlier when I was swimming upstream. My granddad was a professional rugby player. Sadly, he's passed away now, but when I was younger, at his funeral, I just started playing rugby at the time, and I remember somebody mentioning in a speech that there's another little rugby player in the family playing in the same position. Playing in the same position as my granddad, and perhaps the next person to push himself to become a professional rugby player. And unconsciously, I kind of held on to this belief throughout my teenage years, when people were starting to get scouted, and when things kind of do develop for rugby players at a younger age. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't as good as the other people at the time, and now I realise that I was doing it for the enjoyment side of it more than actually pursuing a career out of it. And it took me way too long to realise that this isn't the direction I actually want to push myself in. And no matter how many rugby games I played, how bad my injuries kept getting and worsening, I still pursued it with kind of blind interest, because this is the only idea of success that we've really had in my family on that capacity, on that scale. And I think I was about 21 when I kind of stopped pushing myself, and I did absolutely everything I could to get something out of that, and I still didn't. But knowing the fact that I still put all the effort in I could and I didn't get anything out of it, in itself was a massive lesson. And as I also mentioned, everything does happen for a reason. This has led me down to where I am now, and doing a master's degree. No one in my family's even done an undergraduate degree, never mind got to that point. So it's like I'm still developing, and it's led me to a place where I'm learning things which I can, like I say, now share with the world. And this is And I wouldn't take back a single minute of all these things that have happened to me and why they've happened to me, because they've led me to where I am right now, and I'm nothing but grateful. There's a lot of things that I'll be sharing too, which is out of personal interest. So I've picked up some information around like spirituality and like philosophy is something that I'm quite new on, which I'm really enjoying reading into at the minute. Things which will genuinely be able to be shared and hopefully applied to the everyday life of just people that are listening, tuning in, regardless of age. And we will see some of this in episode 2, which, believe it or not, is a solo episode which I filmed about a year ago. Way too long. Obviously, I am aware of this, but this idea isn't a new idea. It still was relatively embryotic at the time of filming them first episodes because I wasn't perhaps in the correct environment to be pushing myself towards that. At the time, I didn't realise it. I was kind of dissociated. But we still got a good episode out of it. I will be releasing that one and another podcast which I filmed about 8 months ago. This will be the first guest podcast, but this is with a professional rugby player called Aidan. A lot of things have changed for both me and Aidan since the filming of that podcast, but I'm still going to release it to the world because I do believe that there is a lot of important information that you can extract from that and apply to your own life in whatever walk, in whatever field that you choose to apply it to. Anyway, what are my personal reasons for doing this podcast? If you're getting to know me, I think you should get to know the reasons why I'm going to be doing this and why I'm going to be aiming to build a career around it. So, I've always enjoyed meeting new people. For some reason, what comes to my head is when I was a little bit younger, going out on nights out, I'd always choose to kind of be in the smoking areas, talking to people and gaining information about random people's lives, and just having this collection of stories to come home with instead of, like, I don't know, bouncing around and not being able to talk to people because the music's too loud inside. Maybe that's just me, but that's just an example. This is going to provide me with the opportunity to be able to do that on a much bigger scale with much more interesting people. No offence to anybody that I spoke to in smokers over the years, but I want to reach people from all corners, many different professions. I've got a list of about 15 to 20 people at the minute that I'm going to try get in touch with and try and bring on. Aidan being one of them, who obviously I got on considerable amount of months ago now, but I'm sure he'll still be happy to be featured on the channel. So another reason that I'm going to be pursuing this podcast is something really significant happened in my life. Probably the most significant event I've actually come across yet, and this was my nan dying of cancer. This was 2 years ago now. Jesus, that time was absolutely flown, but it made me realise the totality of life. You really do have a short window to be able to kind of pursue the things that you want to be able to pursue. But this experience in and of itself, regardless of how traumatic it was, it definitely made me realise the totality of life. And I won't say I overcame death, but it put me at ease a lot more with the idea and the concept of it. And something that really did resonate with me from that time was something that I heard. I think it's the man who sleeps on the floor, he'll never wake up having nightmares of falling out of bed. That's a metaphor that basically states that if you accept that death is inevitable, and makes you realise that the worst thing that can happen to you is death. So all of these little embarrassments or the shame that you carry around you on a daily basis is going to be nothing compared to that. Also, another reason that I'm pursuing this podcast is because I am the oldest sibling of some young siblings. I've got a sister and 2 younger brothers, and I've not particularly been raised around some great examples of role models, we'll say, and I want to be someone that they can look up to and realise that the ceiling isn't as low as we've been told our whole lives, and we can push ourselves in absolutely any direction. You've just got to keep trying. It's all trial and error. You'll figure out what you want to do. Dream high, dream big, and you will be able to achieve anything with consistency and belief in yourself, more importantly. Obviously, I'm going to be someone who's going to believe in them regardless of what they do in life, but I want to prove to them that that ceiling is made of glass. You can smash right through it and you can push yourself and do whatever you want to do. So that kind of takes me on to the next point that I want to make, which, along with the ceiling being a lot higher than we anticipated, that a lot of the adversity that we are going to face is self-imposed, and it's through kind of unfulfilling prophecies that we give ourselves in our brain. So we need to kind of figure out a way to rewire these things that are kind of these beliefs that are not benefiting us. And that leads me on to Plato's cave. The allegory of the cave serves as a metaphor depicting the human condition's journey from ignorance to enlightenment. Plato uses the metaphor of a subterranean cave to illustrate a group of prisoners. These prisoners are bound by chains and restricted in their movements. So they're forced to face the cave wall, and they are deprived of the ability to swivel their heads and see their immediate environment. A fire flickers dimly behind them, barely illuminating their dreary surroundings, and periodically individuals walk behind these prisoners, parading various figures which cast elongated and distorted shadows on the wall before the prisoners. Having no other experiences, they mistake these illusions for reality. Categorizing them and giving them names, they believe that they are seeing tangible entities. I'm sure you can see what Plato's doing with this metaphor, but their reality is a distorted illusion. This illusion is perpetuated in your life through unfulfilling beliefs, which most of the time are just passed on to you, and they're completely detrimental to your mindset. Now, there is a little bit more to this allegory, and then I will pop a video on the screen that you can go and watch and really get to grips with this allegory in total, but I thought it was just an important thing to share on the podcast. So, to bring episode 1 to a close, we're going to be talking about what you should look forward to in the coming episodes of the Profound Upon podcast. So, with regards to the solo episodes, I'm going to be telling you how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. These 6 ghosts are made up of poverty, criticism, ill health, death, old age, and losing a loved one. I hope that you take inventory on some of these ghosts that we'll be talking about and see if you can apply it to your lives. The idea is if you can overcome these ghosts, then there is literally no stopping you. The 13 Principles of Success from Napoleon Hill. I'll give a bit of backstory. Napoleon Hill was given a task by a man named Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie, funnily enough, funded the campus which I'm currently doing my master's degree at. Sorry, a little bit of a weird side note there. Could be a coincidence, might not be, but I stumbled across this book from Napoleon Hill. He was given the contact information and the network of all of the most successful people in America in all of the industries that were being built up at the time, and he spoke to all of these people, he learnt their stories, he put all of that information into 13 principles. And it goes without saying, really, that if you apply these principles within your life, the sky's the limit. I talk about it on the first episode, which is weird to say now because that episode was filmed months ago. But yeah, we will be going over the 13 principles of success one by one, obviously individually, because I don't want to overwhelm you with information. We will be spreading out across a few episodes. I will also be talking a lot about how to consciously change your life. So whether that is how behaviours start or the route that they take to become habit, I will break that down, and hopefully this information will be able to help you out. This is obviously just a few ideas of what we will be talking about in the up and coming episodes, but all I will say is keep an eye out for some familiar faces, because ideally I am going to be getting as many interesting people as possible on this podcast to share their story with you and hopefully help you in the pursuit of whatever greatness you are aiming to achieve. Anyway, that does lead us to the end of episode 1. I hope you did enjoy this episode. Keep it short and sweet, hopefully. It hasn't dragged out as long as I anticipated. But regardless, if you have enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go and check out the music that I also make. The first mixtape that I created was one called Mental Wealth, and I will be shamelessly plugging that as much as possible because this is a hobby which I really enjoy doing. So, if you do care about your mental health, go and stream Mental Wealth on Spotify and Apple Music. I will see you on the next episode of Profound Upon. Thank you for listening or watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
I advocate to find something that captivates, then activate. Don't let small things aggravate, psychologically graduate. If they're there just to congratulate, that limb you must amputate. If they're selfish, emancipate, cause you just don't have time for it. This is my advice, no cadet. To overcome you must accept, not forget. Then the benefits will outweigh the threats. Choose the pain of discipline or have the pain of regret.